Action. All right, welcome back to the Chemical Man Podcast. I'm your host, Chris, and today I wanted to talk about things kind of do and don't do in interviews. You know, we've had a couple things. We've had some interviews come through, and if you're going for an operator job, okay, that's great. You're going to be there. You're going to interview. They're going to ask you questions. You're going to do just a bunch of different things, right? But don't go in there and when they ask you why do you want to come work for the company? What do you know? And then you say stuff like, well, I want to be an operator, then I want to be a boss, or I want to be a manager. I mean, it's probably not the best look to do. Just right off the bat, say, well, I want to be a foreman, or I want to, I want to get out of operations and go that. Yes, there are people that do that. Yes, that's probably not the best thing. You're there interviewing for an operator position. Let's talk about the operator position. Let's not talk about, well, you want to come work for this company and then all of a sudden you want to go be a manager or you want to be a foreman right off the bat. Let's back up there a minute. Let's take the operator position if you get it offered, and then prove yourself, and then work up if you want to be a foreman. And if that's your end goal, that's great. But don't come out of the gate running like that. A lot of companies will be like, well, we're interviewing for an operator job, and you're talking about wanting to come in and immediately be a foreman. So let's not do some of that stuff there. I recommend coming in, doing the job, getting used to the atmosphere, and then work your way up, and that would be better on that one too. Clothing, just wear collared shirts, button-down shirt, pants, shoes, just simple stuff that looks presentable. Don't come in there with cut off. Holes cut in your pants, or you got holes in your shirts and stuff. We all can go to Goodwill, we can all borrow a shirt, we can all do what we need to do to look a little presentable. Just look somewhat presentable when you show yourself. Sell yourself, I guess is what you should say. Some of the other things, don't kind of come in, don't be late, don't be tardy. If they say your interview is at 9 a.m., show up at 8:30. Show get up there a little early. Get prepared, get for stuff like that. The biggest thing out there is people getting nervous, and I know we've talked about this before in other videos, but I know a lot of people get nervous, and I get it. You do, but think about that. They're also nervous on their end because they're talking to somebody that they've never met. You're talking to somebody you never met. Just think about just trying to be cool, calm. Just answer the questions appropriately. Talk about stuff like that. Because you also want to, they also look at you and how you handle stress. If we're just sitting there talking and you're over there shaking and you can't, and you just can't handle it because you feel all this pressure. Well, what's going to happen if you get out there in the field and something happens, a fire starts or something else happens, and how are you going to be under pressure then? And I get it. Some people just say, well, I'm not good at tests. I'm not good at talking in front of people. I get real nervous on there. I get it. We all do. We all get nervous and stuff too. But if you just calm down, just take a deep breath, just remember you're just sit there to talk, you're just there to get to know one another, and you're just there to have fun. Make a mental note of questions that you might want to ask, like just different things like, how many people per shift, or, how many people you're looking to hire, stuff like that. If they ask you, what are you looking for in as far as pay? The best thing I do is I always tell them, well, this is what I'm making now, and I'm looking for something comfortable to that or more. And just present them with that. I make X amount per hour. This is what I'm kind of looking for. Just present them with that and go from there. Don't ever well, I'm looking for $100 an hour. Well, then you can just go on down the road because they'd be like, sorry, but we're not paying that. Think about things like that. Just when they ask you about just different skills and stuff, it doesn't always have to be related to just a plant experience. It can be life skills, different things like handling a situation and stuff, you could have something as far as I was driving down the road and I had a flat tire. Well, what kind of, how did you handle it? Did you get stressed out? Did you get nervous, or did you pull over the side of the road? Did you change your tire? Did just they want to know experience stuff like that. Simple things on there. I know there's ways that people teach to do the STAR method. It's good and it's bad. If I sit there and I tell you exactly every single thing that you need to say in that interview, that's okay, I guess. But think about that. We've had a lot of people come in and interview, and man, they did great in the interview. Awesome. Like, man, I'd hire this guy today. As soon as they get out there, you can tell they lied immediately. Everything was either coached, everything was forced, everything was just, didn't pertain, nothing. And now they're going around like, wait a minute. You did great in the interview. You say you know all this stuff. You did everything, and then you come out here and you're asking me stupid questions like I've said in the past. Who controls the check valve? Is that a control operator, or is that an outside operator? Who controls the check valve? It's questions like that that make you think. You're like, wait a minute now. You did great in the interview, and you supposedly know all this stuff, but these are some weird questions you're asking. I mean, yeah, there's always weird questions, but let's not dwell on that. I made like a little list here on some other stuff on there, but other thing is don't downplay safety. Think about stuff like that. Don't say you don't always follow the procedures. That'll disqualify you. Say you work with procedures. Say you look at them. If you see stuff that's not in the procedure, you try to bring that up to people to try to get change. Don't over exaggerate experience. That's a bad thing too. If you don't know something, admit it. Express your willingness to learn. Things like that I've made. Don't trash talk past employees either. Don't if you're there to go in an interview and they ask you, well, where are you working now? Tell them, but don't badmouth it and don't say, oh, that place is horrible. That's why I want to get out of there. If they ask you, hey, why are you looking for a change? You tell them. You just tell them basic stuff like I'm looking to better myself and my family. I really like that your company does this, or I like the company does that. You're looking for better things in life. You want to exceed in life. You want to just do better, I guess what I should say. You just looking to better your life, make better choices for your family, and you like things about the company you go for. Don't focus solely on money too. Like I said earlier, if they ask you, tell them this is what I make per hour. This is what I'm comfortable with, and present it like that, and then they'll go from there on there. That's just some things to really look to kind of think about when you're in interviews and stuff. I know it's a lot, but I wanted to come on here. We've had some interviews for people, and some of the things I've heard and seen, I'm like, oh my God, there's either one, you didn't really want the job, and that's just what you said, or you're just looking at other stuff. Yes, a lot of the companies hire within, and that's a good thing. But get your basics out of the way. If you get a job as an operator, learn the ropes, learn the stuff, and then work your way up. That's always the best thing to do. Like I said, some people come in these jobs that have never worked an operator job before, so it's going to be new to them. They never worked shift work before, so it's going to be new to them. You have some people that come in, can't stand it, immediately try to do something. What do you have for days? What do you have for days? And sometimes it goes off seniority. Sometimes it goes off who they feel better for the job, not just someone straight off the street on there. Just a couple other things, show some, think about mechanical and process knowledge, think about things like that. Think about which way, I've done a video on valves and which way a valve should be open, which way a valve should be closed. Think about that. You have people out there that look at stuff and they really can't tell, so, think about that. There's plenty of instructional videos out there on that. I've made some on that, Again, emphasize safety, emphasize things like that. If you're on a hazmat team somewhere, that's a good thing to bring up too. You're on the fire team, that's a good thing to bring up too on there. So these are just little tricks and tips and stuff for people doing interviews. Some people probably know this. Some people are probably confused on how to act. It's always nerve-wracking when you go to an interview and you're trying to do your best. You're trying to present yourself the best. You want to make yourself look good, but It's not like you're at the bar when you're trying to like build yourself up to talk to a person across the bar, and you want to be all macho and everything. No, it's just you're sitting there having a conversation with the people across the room. Just have fun, just keep entertained, and just answer their questions as easy as you can, And if there's something you don't know, then you just tell them you don't know. Don't try to force an answer, because they can read through that. I'm telling you, these people can read through anything where they can see you're lying or you're forcing an answer when you shouldn't. Anyway, I just want to tell everybody, be safe. If you're going for interviews, good luck. We've got some videos on there about that. I've got questions and answers if you need that too on there. If you still need help with your resume, I'll have the email down below. But everybody have a safe day. Everybody be safe out there. Watch yourself. And until the next time, everybody have a good one. Bye.